Welcome back to another podcast at Corlane Sporting Goods. Hunt hard, talk free. This podcast is brought to you by Ballistics Custom Turrets, the most accurate, affordable, quickest turnaround time for custom turrets in North America. And for this podcast, we've brought in Colin Peters, who happens to be in town for a big function that we'll get into. And we're here to discuss 1Campfire. Thanks for coming in, Colin.
Well, thank you for having me.
No problem. So tell us what brings you to Dawson Creek today?
We're in town for our Wild Sheep Society of BC. We have our Northern Convention. So this is our fourth year running the convention. The guys started it 4 years ago, started off with about 230. We've moved it now over to the Encana Center, and we're over 400, and it's sold out in 18 hours.
Amazing. I've heard there's some... I think it could be almost twice that size, just the number of people that are now still talking, I didn't get tickets, I didn't get a table. It's a phenomenal event that could be sold out in 18 hours. So is there any talk of it growing for the future, or is it logistically tough?
Facilities.
Okay.
It revolves around facilities. Like
Yep.
Where a facility would house 1,000.
Yeah.
Right now, they believe that we would probably sell 800 tickets.
Yeah.
The waiting list is as long as the registration list.
Awesome.
And there's lots of more people that hear about it. People are coming from as far up north of Fort Nelson.
Yep.
To come. So.
And for listeners that aren't aware what the Wild Sheep Society of BC is all about, can you give us a little background on what they do?
Sure. Wild Sheep Society BC is an affiliate of the Wild Sheep Foundation out of the U.S. We are a registered nonprofit that our mission is to enhance sheep habitat and promote the species within each of the regions. So in the north, we have salting programs. The south, we tend to have a little bit more prescribed burns and MOVI testing. We have the Fraser River assessment. Our assessment is where we're looking at comparing science from the U.S., science from Canada, and we're trying to find out a little bit more on MOVI. MOVI, most people may not know, is a pathogen that actually is carried in the domestic herds, domestic sheep and domestic goats.
Right.
And it can be passed along to the wild herds. And once it gets inside the wild herd, it is catastrophic for the wild species.
It spreads like wildfire and wipes them out.
And wipes them out.
Yeah, yeah. And I don't know if we see it so much in the north, the domestic herds getting intertwined with the wild herds, but in the south it's quite prevalent, isn't it? Because the herds are coming out of the mountains and grazing more where farmers have the domestic and stuff.
Correct. In the south, where it's more common for the bighorn herds to be closer to ranch lands and populated areas.
Yep.
But there have been a case in Alaska where the first time a thin horn has contracted MOVI.
Wow.
So there are pockets also in the north where there are ranch lands that come in contact or could potentially come in contact. So the research is now just as important in the north as it is in the south.
And it affects, is it all cloven foot animals? Like sheep and goats are both affected?
That's correct.
Yeah, okay. And it's not problematic for the domestic herds. They can live with it and it doesn't wipe them out, right?
That's right. It's a pathogen that they have built up an immunity to it.
Yep.
But our wild herds, it is completely catastrophic for them.
Okay. And these Wild Sheep Society fundraisers, like the one that's occurring tonight or tomorrow night in Dawson Creek, generate large amounts of revenue for the Sheep Society, and that money, if I understand correctly, like 100% of it goes back into to fight all these things, right, and to improve habitat and stuff. It's not one of those societies where 75% of it used to pay people to do jobs, and then a little bit of the money trickles down. It's large chunks of money go directly back into habitat and these sorts of things, the MOVI.
That's right. Last year, for 2019, our society was able to place over $230,000 in projects to on-the-ground projects. And specifically in the North, the Northern Convention, 100% of the proceeds from this convention stay for Northern projects.
Amazing.
So these Northern fundraisers are for the Northern herds.
Excellent.
And I think that's what's made it a very popular.
Yep.
The money is staying here. The money isn't going south or going elsewhere.
Right.
So that is made this event incredibly popular and very well attended throughout the North.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's something that, again, us as Corlanes, we've been tied in with it for quite some time, whether it's building custom guns or supplying product and stuff. And just, we see it as one of the best investments for the great outdoors in the North, because it stays here and it goes directly right back into our ecosystem. So excellent. But I guess that's not really the main thing we're here to talk about. You have another organization that are you the founder of 1Campfire? Tell us about 1Campfire.
1Campfire. 1Campfire is a campaign under the Wild Sheep Society of BC. Back in December 2017, we could see the onslaught of populism, where the urban demographic had kind of control of the voting majority, and science-based wildlife management was somewhat discarded. We could see that some species being so heavily researched in science and researched, but the public opinion was kind of taking charge over the science, and it's unfortunate that the public opinion comes from, though, being so disconnected from their natural environment.
Mm-hmm. So urbanites born and raised in cities that maybe don't get out to the great outdoors on a daily basis, or it might not be tied into their way of life, are making decisions for the great outdoors across the province based off of emotions instead of science.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 1Campfire is built to regain our hunting heritage, regain the hunting narrative, and educate the urban demographic of what hunting is in a modern era. Is it relevant in modern society? And using our concepts and typical language of the past, that hunting is conservation, doesn't really resonate anymore. The urban demographic doesn't look and see that as an acceptable means. When we look at, okay, well, does the urbanite feel is acceptable? How can we make hunting acceptable to people that live in the city? So when we can turn the conversation around to food procurement, all of a sudden there's an acceptance. There's almost like an eye-opening, and the ears have opened up and they want to know more. Well, how do you do that? So we can talk about the procurement of food and the adventure and the lifestyle and the effort it takes, and then you can bring hunting back around into that. That concept is acceptable.
No. We've had some customers, whether they're from, well, there's a lot that live in this community, and we've even had some from Tumbler Ridge and other communities, where I had one guy come in and he said, I just got my firearms license. I'm looking to buy a gun because I'd like to hunt. My wife is a vegetarian, and she was against eating meat because of factory farming and all those sorts of things. But now she's doing more research into wild game and ethical harvesting of meat to fill the freezer. And she's okay with it. So she wants me to get into hunting to provide our family with food, and just totally changed their perspective as a family on ethical. And I think he said it had to do with one of those documentaries like Food Inc. or one of those factory farming, large scale. It's what it does to the animals, the quality of meat you're getting, the hormone injections, and all those sorts of things that happen in the big factory farming that kind of made them look outside of the supermarket to get their, because they grow a garden, they like to have their lettuce and tomatoes and stuff. Well, what else can we do to fill the freezer with quality meat? And I think on the upside, I think there's more of a there's a positive vibe, and I'd say people like Steve Rinella, Joe Rogan, those sorts of people are phenomenal for the industry and what they can bring to the table for the positive outlook on hunting and like you say, food procurement. So I think that's an excellent method to go about. What's your background? Are you a hunter? Were you a hunter? Did you grow up in a hunting family?
I am a hunter. I did not grow up in a hunting family.
Where are you from?
I'm from the epicenter of political decision, the Vancouver, the Lower Mainland. So a campaign like 1Campfire is my backyard. I grew up with sidewalks around me, but we grew up on motorcycles. So we grew up riding in the, not really the backcountry, logging roads.
Yep.
A far cry from where I go hunting now, but I've always loved the outdoors. And as I was getting older, I had this desire to get out more, get further back. I didn't know anybody that hunted, and I went through, got my hunting license, got on my firearms license, started going out with a few friends here and there. No one really knew what to do other than camping with a weekend with a firearm, really.
Yeah.
And it took quite a while before I could kind of make my first harvest where things really turned around. And at that point, when things really turned around, that was only about 15 years ago. So all of a sudden, it's like the light bulb went off. Yep. And it certainly ignited a desire and a fire within me, a passion that I always liked it, but I didn't realize how much I liked it, how much I enjoyed being outside.
Yep.
And for me now, it's not nearly as much about the harvest as it about the adventure of being outside.
Yep.
I'd like to say I would still do the backcountry even without a firearm, but there's a connection there that makes us or lets us go back further. And the further back the adventure, the more enticing it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would fully agree. And it's one of those things that's tough to explain to someone that has never experienced it, what it's all about. And and like you say, it's not about the kill. It's about the experience, the adventure, and just the knowledge that a person needs to learn to be able to, I don't want to say outsmart, but to be able to actually harvest an animal. Animals are not stupid creatures. They've got heightened senses. They can see better than we can see. They can hear better than we can hear. They can smell you a mile away. And so there is definitely a sense of accomplishment when you do harvest the animal because you have risen above and whether it's outsmarted or however you want to put it, it takes years of knowledge. And I mean, I was lucky enough to go with 3 guys that were seasoned sheep hunters on my first sheep hunt last year and successfully harvested a sheep. And everybody says the year you start hunting is the year your sheep's born. So you'll have like 8 years of hunting before you actually get one. And I mean, if it wasn't for the knowledge of the people I was with, guaranteed wouldn't have got one. I would have hiked up into the same exact spot and looked around and probably looked over a bunch of animals and continued hiking and not put in enough time sitting and glassing and all the different things that they had so much to teach me. But just the whole adventure, the hiking 15K, to get into a spot on trails that no one had been down in 10, 15 years that were completely overgrown. Just the adventure was phenomenal. And getting into country that I've never seen countryside like it before. I mean, born and raised in this area, living in the great outdoors, hunting all the time, really different from heading up north into the mountains and getting above the tree lines and hunting. It's just, it's surreal and as amazing as you can. Like you say, the further back you get, the better it is. So no, it's amazing. So 1Campfire story. What's the purpose of 1Campfire? If you had to break down 1Campfire into You got a 2-minute pitch. What is it?
We're going to educate the urban demographic. For the most part, most of the population has a very misconstrued concept and idea of what hunting is. They have some old imagery of a couple of backcountry characters and shooting at whatever comes crawling across the landscape. They have no concept of our rules, of regulations, bag limits. So we need to educate what hunting really is. And unfortunately, we have not told our story. The non-hunting public has gotten their story from the anti-hunting side and telling false stories and not telling the whole story, not providing any of our provincial science.
Yep.
When we talk about science, this isn't hunter science. This is provincial science. This is provincial employees, provincial registered professional biologists that study wildlife and come up with the bag limits and seasons and all the regulations around it. The hunting community has no part of that.
Sustainability.
Correct. The sustainability is not mentioned to the urban demographic. Mm-hmm. So we have to start, where did we lose that connection? It's hard to say. It was lost a long time ago. One possible link that we look at is in the early 80s, 81, 82-ish.
Yep.
The core program, which is still the foundation of getting your hunting license in British Columbia, that core program was removed out of elementary schools, out of the school curriculum. And at that point, there was a sharp decline. There was a number of other factors along with that. But when you take hunting out of your daily life, mm-hmm. there's no more relevancy.
Yep.
When the kids stop talking about it at home, it's not important anymore. So over time, we kind of have lost that narrative.
What were the numbers that you were mentioning last night? You had a graph showing while the core system was in the school system, was it BC or was it Canada?
That was BC.
It was up at
174,000 in approximately 81, 82.
Hunters.
Registered licensed hunters.
Yep.
Hunting licenses issued.
Yep.
With a population of about 2.1.
Yep.
2.1 million. So jumping forward to today, 18 and 19, we have a population of like 5.1 million with about 105,000 licensed hunters.
Wow.
So there's a huge...
Over double the population.
And
almost half.
The licensed hunters.
Yeah. That's a huge difference. Some questions do come in there about sustainability. Had there been 4 times as many hunters and pressure on animals in different areas and stuff like that, but it's still, if we're on a decline in hunters, right? It's continuing to drop and drop and drop, and as more people move to the cities and get into the city life, like we notice it that a lot of youth in small northern communities may not stick around, and they'll head to the cities and join that lifestyle as well. So I see it on a continual decline unless something changes.
That's right.
Yeah.
And 1Campfire is bringing the relevancy of hunting to city life. In the cities, adventure is popular.
Yep.
Everybody likes a great adventure. Farm markets are big, popular, huge.
Yep.
Organic is a concept that many urbanites fall after and follow. They love the concept of clean eating. So when we can wrap the concept of hunting that can resonate, we have been doing a terrible job at portraying our image into the modern era. The modern era is social media. Social media for the hunting space certainly hasn't been any advantage. Far too often, posts and photos are used that shouldn't be placed online. And once that image is out there, it's gone forever. Private hunting groups aren't private. Mm-hmm. Social media is not your space.
It's public.
It's completely public.
Yep.
And what happens once those images are released, you never know where they're going to wind up.
Yeah. And with the spread of information with social media, I think hunting versus anti-hunting is one of those things, just like in politics, left versus right, is they're becoming more polar, and people aren't looking for a common ground. It's me versus you, and it seems to be the push is dividing even more because of social media. Even though the information's out there, people aren't looking to learn and get educated. I have a stance and I want to push my stance if I'm an anti-hunter or a pro-hunter, and rub it in the other side's face, and that can be with those negative images and things like that. The take PETA's logo and put it on my kill, and that sort of thing, and that's just separating the people as opposed to trying to do what 1Campfire is trying to do and show that, you know what, we all, at the end of the day, if you enjoy the great outdoors, we all come back to 1Campfire, right? Doesn't matter if you're riding a mountain bike, doesn't matter if you're hiking, doesn't matter if you're fishing, doesn't matter if you're on a hunt, whatever. At the end of the day, we all come back to 1Campfire and we all enjoy the great outdoors. And we all want to see it there for our kids and our grandkids and our great-grandkids to be able to enjoy as well. And so I think 1Campfire is an excellent first step in the wild west of social media, because right now that's kind of what social media is. There is no control or anything like that. People can do whatever they want, say whatever they want, post whatever they want, and it gives some excellent guidelines, some moral and positive guidelines for all outdoor enthusiasts. So that's what your message is, and how are you getting your message across to the populations? So your audience, for the most part, is the urbanites. It's focused on the city folk. I mean, being a BC organization, you're focusing on kind of Vancouver and the Okanagan, correct?
Vancouver, Victoria, Kelowna.
Okay.
Are the primary markets.
Yep.
The hunting industry, the hunting space, has always been somewhat reactive. They, in past, have been chasing bad stories, bad media, bad imagery, trying to explain, trying to quantify, no, that's not true. Chasing after a bad reputation is impossible. The reputation's already there.
Yep.
So 1Campfire is going to be proactive. Let's get out in front and create positive imagery. Let's create some positive media. So the very piece of media that a lot of people say that was the demise of hunting, social media, we are using social media to design and build content where we can place it right at our demographic. Using social media with a short clips, we can design the campaign and include and exclude a number of different factors, a number of different characteristics. So we can include the people in the outdoor space, whether it be paddling or mountain biking or backcountry skiing. We can include those people, and we can also exclude. So we don't really want to be talking to the anti-hunting people. That's a conversation that we just won't get anywhere. So
their mind's made up.
Their mind is made up. Let's leave that one for another time.
Yep.
There's a huge chunk in the middle, the 80 to 90% of the population that just don't care. They just don't know.
Right.
They don't know because they haven't heard a message from the hunting side that resonates with them.
Right.
And that's what 1Campfire is. We're going to have to create content. We have to pay attention to the urban demographic of what they want to see. What do you want to see, and what imagery do you find acceptable?
Yep.
And so while the imagery of 1Campfire may or may not be hunter-esque, it isn't designed for the hunting community. It's designed for the non-hunting community. So the market demographic will look at the content, look at our platforms, and see some resemblance to the lifestyle that they are after. The rock climbing or backcountry work. When they look at the brand and see the imagery that they partake in, they start looking into a little bit more. We try to first gain the respect of the outside community, outdoor community. Then we have to bring content that they would like to see.
Yep.
And then we can talk about the advantages and specifically food procurement.
Yep.
And then we can bring in the hunting concept. The concept of my wild harvest, my procurement of food, my choice to selectively harvest from the bounty of our outdoors.
Yep.
And that has respect. But we have to learn how to communicate better. And that is what every hunter could do, is that if a lot of the hunting community hasn't done a great job of being efficient communicators.
Right. When do you think hunting became vilified? Because if you look back in time, hunting was one of the original forms of gathering food. I mean, hunting, gathering, right? You were picking berries and you were killing animals because that was the only way to survive. And so, I mean, it goes as deep can be in our roots. And at what point did everything change and hunting become the redneck in the pickup truck swigging beers and shooting anything that moves? Where did that change occur? What are your thoughts?
False imagery.
Yeah.
Cartoons.
Yeah.
Pretend. A disconnection with wildlife and how wildlife really reacts. The natural world isn't a warm and fuzzy place.
No.
It is brutally beating on each other.
Yeah.
It isn't what a lot of mainstream media tries to portray it of being soft and cuddly.
Yeah.
Because it has fur and eyelashes doesn't mean it's cuddly. And
Right.
that's a lot of the imagery that we see.
Yeah.
And that imagery is posted and directed to the urban centers.
Yep.
So when did cartoons have a role in it?
Yep.
Moving from a rural lifestyle to an urban lifestyle.
Yep.
When you no longer saw harvest being done, you never saw food being procured, you never saw beef. Your food
Yep.
now came on a plastic tray.
Yeah, I can just go buy it at Safeway. What do you mean?
That's
An
right.
animal didn't die for this. I bought it in Safeway.
And people aren't thinking of what that steak really is, or what that
How did it get
chicken
there?
breast is.
Yeah.
That's just a nicely portioned,
Yeah.
perfectly shaped piece of meat.
Yeah.
They don't think of how it actually got into this plastic tray.
Yeah.
And when did that start happening?
Yeah.
That's a
I get.
few decades ago. It's been a slow decline.
Yeah.
And the hunting community has never stepped out in front and started to be proactive.
I also think if the more we discuss it, the more things you bring up there. I think back 3 or 4 generations ago when my grandparents or great grandparents couldn't afford to just go and buy anything and everything. I think we live in most of us today aren't concerned about being able to go down and buy a pack of hot dogs. We can do that if we need to. You can go down and buy it and we can afford it. Where you rewind the clock, they made all their own clothes. They grew all their own vegetables in the garden. You went to school till about grade 8. Then you worked on the farm or the apple orchard or whatever. And it wasn't, people didn't have the expendable income to just go out to a restaurant every night if they need to have a bite to eat. So as the need to hunt dropped off, that probably all ties in with it as well. I can just go down to 7-Eleven and pick up a hot dog, or I can hit up the local restaurant and grab a bite to eat. I don't need to hunt for food anymore. So with that and the cute cuddly eyelash animals on TV with human voices and stuff, it all ties in, really. Doesn't seem to be one thing that set it all off. It's just been a cultural change. So it's excellent that organizations like the Wild Sheep Society, like 1Campfire, are working together to bring a positive message back. So you guys have videos on social media. What platforms are you on right now?
We are on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
And we also have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
So all of our content, we have 3 long form videos. Mm-hmm. A long form is approximately 7 to 12 minutes. And we have our shorts, or vignettes. The vignettes are purposely built for social media. And Our messaging really happens on social media.
Okay.
That's where the bulk of it's a digital campaign. There's no print. There's no newspaper ads. There's no print where people can read a brochure. It is viewed on our website and then directed to social media. For the most part, most urban demographic, information is brought onto them via their social media feeds. So they don't even use websites anymore. Websites aren't used like they were 10, 15 years ago.
Right.
Our website holds our platform, holds our content, but how we gain attention and how we place our content into our viewers is social media.
Mm-hmm. And who's your intended audience?
Urban people that love the outdoors.
Yep.
That age group is from 24 to 44.
Yep.
That see a connection to organic, self-sustaining, adventure, and healthy eating.
Yeah. So your typical hunter will probably not see your content organically pop up on our social media posts. So if we want to check out what you're doing, see your videos and stuff, we can. What's the best way to see your content?
Through our website.
Okay.
The website will hold all of our content. You can look at our social media channels. They will hold our content, but to get the full grasp of our content and more of the narrative behind 1Campfire, you can head to our website.
And follow you on social media.
And follow us on social media.
Because if we follow you, then we'll get to see your content
Correct.
pop up because we're a follower. And so follow 1Campfire and then share it as well. So if you push it out to your friends and they push it out to their friends, it's about getting the message out there. And even though we as outdoorsmen, hunters, those sorts of things aren't who the targeted audiences are, we probably know people that will see our posts and our friends' posts and stuff and can help push the positive message out there.
Correct. Like the hunting space has a bit of a new responsibility now. We all can share in posting hunting in a positive light. And that is through your dialogue, that's through your conversations with your work, co-workers and peers, and that can work also in your posting on social media.
Yep.
Think about the imagery before you post it. Think of the content and the captions that you write before you post.
So do you also want people to be tagging you guys in their outdoor posts?
Sure.
Okay.
They certainly can.
So if I have a cool hiking picture, my family and I hiking out in the Pine Pass or something like that, hashtag 1Campfire or at 1Campfire, and tie you guys into our social media as well, like in our daily outdoor lives as well.
Exactly. That's how the brand can be shared. And that post, whether it comes from an individual that is a hunter or not, doesn't matter.
Right.
The brand 1Campfire is to bring us all together.
Yep.
So we need the hunting community to learn and recognize what is appropriate content to post, and we'd love to see those.
Yep.
What are those are images of all the imagery that we love of the outdoors. The scenic shots, the family shots, the shots of the unique places that we go, the incredible landscape, the critters that we get to see in the backcountry.
Yep.
All of those photos, that imagery resonates with our demographic, the urban demographic that loves the outdoors. Everybody loves to see a great looking sunset, a great waterfall, or a mountaintop view.
Yeah. Yeah. So number one, and then campfire, correct? Not O-N-E campfire.
Correct.
Number one.
The number one.
Campfire.
Campfire.
I just want to put that out there so everybody knows that it's one, the number, and then campfire. Hashtag or at 1Campfire. And excellent. So how the audience of this podcast is more your hunting demographic. How can we as outdoorsmen help out? Aside from sharing.
Yeah. Be ambassadors for the brand. And then what does it mean to be ambassador? It means create imagery that resonates with the greater non-hunting public. Be cognizant of what you're posting. Your posting is out and forever. And when you can post content that can resound with everybody, when a great wide audience can look at the photos and like and enjoy it, that is how the hunting community can make hunting relevant in the modern eyes.
Gotcha.
Another piece is that we are working on monetizing the brand more. Some funding mechanisms where we're looking at the hunting community to help support.
Mm-hmm.
When asked from our hunting community, how much would you contribute to a campaign that is for your hunting heritage? How much would you contribute to ensure that you can hunt and your family can hunt and your kids can hunt and your grandkids? And a lot of people have no problem with $10 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So every licensed hunter in the province can do $100, $120 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be done through your game clubs. That can be through private donations directly to the campaign.
Yep.
And it can be done through a program that we're going to be building, the retail donation program, where retailers like Corlane's will be asking their clients, their customers, if they wish to donate to 1Campfire.
Yep.
Now, the customer needs to understand what this is and what it's about and whether they want to donate at this particular time.
Right.
But that is how, on a small scale, those small purchases, a couple extra dollars.
Yep.
$10 a month, the vast majority of people will spend 2 or 3 times that buying coffees each month.
Yep.
So $10 a month really is not very much.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking at, that $10 per month. Let's not look at the big picture. Let's look at what you can do on a regular basis.
And so is there a donate here button on your website or anything like that people, if they want to put their credit card info in to do a lump sum donation, can?
There is a donate here portion on the website, or they can contact us directly with info@1campfire.com. They can go through a number of the game clubs throughout the province, and sportsmen's clubs have internal campaigns, have already internally set some programs up.
Yep.
They can make direct deposits. There's a numerous different mechanisms to contribute. And on the business side, we are looking at brand sponsorship. Brand sponsorship is where businesses outside of the hunting community can sponsor 1Campfire as the brand. So another goal of 1Campfire is to demonstrate that everyday people are part of this outdoor lifestyle, are part of a greater group that actually hunts for themselves. It isn't just the one individual that they have this ugly stereotype of. It can be the doctors and lawyers. It can be the business owners. It can be the crane operators. It can be the school teacher. It can be the logging truck operators. It doesn't matter. We're trying to legitimize the brand across our entire population.
Yep. So if any listener out there has a business that they'd like to be a brand sponsor for 1Campfire, they can reach out to you and they'll get some advertising and co-branded type stuff.
Absolutely.
Oh.
Yep. You can reach us out on either one of our social platforms.
Yep.
Instagram, Facebook, or on through our website. There's a link there about more information, and or a direct email at info@1campfire.com.
Excellent. Perfect. Well, that's awesome. That kind of covers all the questions I had about 1Campfire, and definitely something worth. Corlane's is going to be working with 1Campfire to see what we can do to help generate a little income as well, because these videos that you guys are putting out are high quality videos. They're well done, and they definitely can't be cheap because they grab your attention. And I think you're doing an excellent job. I think I've watched all of them, but with a very diverse demographic that you're using in your videos and stuff. They're awesome. Very well written, very well shot. the imagery within them is excellent. Whether it's the boat, the hunt, the vegan that moved up north, that is looking at the lifestyle and stuff. It's you guys are doing a wonderful job. And so if you haven't seen any of the 1Campfire videos yet, I highly recommend checking them out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, or the YouTube page, or go directly to the website. And if you have any questions, feel free to give us a call at Corlane's. I can gladly redirect it if you want to talk directly. And let's do what we can to keep the backcountry open and get everybody out there and enjoying the great outdoors. Anything else that you want to throw out before we wrap it up?
We're often asked from the hunting community, what can we do? They recognize, and it really starts in the little steps at home. We have to look at, we have a serious imagery problem, and we have an imagery problem as a whole. And what can you do daily? There is a lot that individuals can do daily to ensure their hunting heritage. And it's the little steps like that create a conception of acceptance for the brand 1Campfire into the urban demographic. We need to show that we respect everybody.
Yep.
Not just hunting community to hunting community. We respect everybody.
Yep.
And that's an important concept that we need to portray.
Yep.
Is we are a very diversified group, and we want to show that common diversification and the common goal of our love of the outdoors.
Yep. Excellent. So, 1campfire.com.ca.
.com.
1campfire.com, social media. And remember, it's #1 and Campfire. And we'll put the posts up on the video too and have links to their sites with this podcast. Thank you very much for coming in today,
Excellent.
Colin. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
No problem at all.
Yep.
And we'll see you tomorrow night at the event, at the Wild Sheep Society event.
We'll see you tomorrow evening.
Perfect. Good. How do you feel that went?